This is Fred Van Allen, First Team Real Estate Christie's, at a special place making event going on here in Pomona. We have one going on regularly. Today it's at the Unity Church at 524 East Pasadena, right near the corner of town. It goes on till 4 o'clock today. Volunteers are welcome to come on by and help out. So please come on by and show your support. I see our city general manager just arrived. I'm going to be going inside for the meeting in just a few minutes. It isn't started quite yet. At the Unity Church, 524 East Pasadena, Pomona's placemaking event's going to be starting here in just a few minutes. Tom, say hi. What's going on here?
Hi. We're doing a placemaking workshop today. Lots of great ideas, just great energy about how to make Pomona better in a very kind of cheaper, lighter, faster way around neighborhoods. So come on down.
Everybody likes cheaper, faster, lighter. That's awesome. Thanks, Tom. So here it is, the Pomona placemaking event taking place here till 4 o'clock today at 524 East Pasadena at the Unity Church. I'm going down the stairs right now. The people are all getting ready to take part. We got a good crowd here.
I did. What's the Is it kicking me out already? I barely got in the door.
I'm going to take the couch.
Smart man.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, Gail, how are you?
Good.
Did you get those photos I sent to you?
Oh, yeah, I sent you a thank you.
Oh, okay.
Lauren, nice to meet you. Oh, that's okay. Yes, you're welcome to join.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah, our
house.
And my 10 years.
Kyle, you want to say a few brief words before you start here?
We're really excited about this second placemaking workshop. We had over 60 at the first one, and it looks like it's going to be another hit crowd. So
Awesome. You plan on having these regularly?
yeah, we're going to have our next one October 28th.
There you go, folks. October 28th is the next event. Put it on your calendar. Come on in, enjoy the fun, help make Pomona a better place. It's going to be a hands-on workshop today. As you can see, people are going to be just getting involved and doing some fun stuff. Rio Rancho Trail Project, Urban Arboretum Project,
and 3rd Street,
Downtown
but a little further
Project.
east of Fox.
This one is going to be the, which project is this? It's going to be the Unity Church Mural Project.
First you have Thomas, right? I forget.
And as usual, refreshments to make sure nobody dies here from lack of sustenance. Look at this, huh? Another good reason to volunteer at Pomona events. We make sure everybody's well taken care of. Hey Victor, hey John, hey Cherie, hey Bill. There is an agenda for today's Pomona Place Making workshop here in Pomona at 524 East Pasadena. It's at the Unity Church, corner of Town and Pasadena.
Yes, I am, and I am not retired. We better find a spot, find pathways, and walkability, and so it's cool because my garden's like right there, so I'm like,
Victor, it's Pomona Place Making. It's about finding small micro venues in Pomona and turning them into an ergonomically, economically, environmentally friendly place for people to hang out and make a destination. Example could be the farmers market that takes place every Saturday morning in Pearl and Gary. It's just an asphalt parking lot during the week, but it turns into a wonderful community event.
Right along, it would be nice to have a bike path along the
Looks like my connection might be coming and going. According to Facebook here, it says my connection is weak. Hey Andy, thanks for joining in.
and then all that walking, bicycling path. And you know, it's kind of an area there. It could be a nice right. Well, it's all along the channel.
We're going to go ahead and get started in about 2 or 3 minutes. So if you need any more refreshments before we begin, please help yourself.
There's coffee. Coffee.
Hi. Are you filming?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I am. Joshua, how you doing?
Sir.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Awesome. Hey, Jim. Hi, Lynn.
Yeah, I don't know what
Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Lamar. Pomona Place Making event today here. A workshop where we're putting together venues throughout Pomona where people are going to want to hang out. Some new type of environmental, eco-cultural thing that's going on, and we're trying to be on the front edge here. Dr. Kyle Brown is going to be leading the event here from Cal Poly Pomona.
What type of vacuum do you use for cleaning your car? Regular vacuum?
Get some coffee.
After my cookie.
All right,
That's your
we're,
sustenance, huh, Joshua?
I think we're going to get started here.
Me too. Nice. Have dessert first. That's the way I like to do it.
This is a terrific turnout. Thank you so much for coming. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kyle Brown. I'm a resident here in Pomona since 2004. I serve on the faculty of the College of Environmental Design at Cal Poly Pomona, and have been one of the folks leading this placemaking effort. There's been a group of us that have been working on this. In particular, in this event, I want to recognize Bree Shea, who's going to be helping facilitate, and Tom Shea as well, and they provided some of the refreshments. And as many of you know, Mayor Sandoval's been very supportive of this effort. And yeah, go ahead.
He was here earlier. I know he greeted some of you, but he had to go before he's had a chance to greet all of you. But he just wanted to say thank you so much for, I think that's the way he said, thank you for giving up your time this afternoon and working together for the city. So yeah, he just wanted me to pass that on.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to take this opportunity before I forget to thank our hosts, Unity Church of Pomona and Reverend Jan Chase.
Will the Unity people stand up so that people know who we are?
Please stand up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Do you want to say anything about welcoming
I
us
do
here?
want to say something.
Okay.
I want to, besides welcoming you, restrooms are behind the kitchen over there by the back door. So male and female, help yourself. Let me know if there's anything you need that's not like there. Also, next Sunday afternoon at 4 here is our next Compassionate City meeting, and we are working along. We're hoping to unfold this work along with Compassionate Cities to, and it's not sanctuary cities, but it's making us into a city that thinks with our heart when we make decisions. And so that's what we're doing here as well. So you're welcome to join us next Sunday as we work with that. Thank you.
Right here. Thank you. So, and could I, actually, let me just
There's
do
more
it since I know.
seats around there and back as people come in. So if you can just point them to seats.
So, up here we've got sort of a rough agenda for how this is going to work today. We really wanted to make this a working session. This is our second placemaking workshop. How many of you were at the first placemaking workshop? Good number of you. How many of this is your first time here? Wow. Great. Really welcome you all. Really, it's great to have new folks here, and it's really great to have returning folks as well. It shows that we're doing something right, at least holding these events. And so we really want to try to make these working sessions where we're being as productive as possible in terms of working on your ideas, the ideas that you feel passionate about, the ideas that you really want to champion, that you really want to support, that you really want to make happen in your community. And so we're going to start with, I'm going to give a little bit of an overview for folks that are new about what is placemaking. For folks that were at the last one, some of that might be a little bit of repeat information. I'm also going to show some examples of just some from communities around the world of some of the things that people are doing, because we want to try to get you thinking creatively about options and so forth. So we'll spend a little bit of time doing that. As I present that material, if you've got questions, feel free to bark those out, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. And then the majority of our time is going to be spent placemaking in groups. So we have 5 projects that we'll talk about today that were initiated as part of the last placemaking workshop, and we're going to continue working on those today. So folks that are interested in those are welcome to participate in those, and you'll hear a minute about each of those projects, and you can get a sense about where it's located and whether you're interested in that project if you haven't decided yet. And for those that none of those really strike your fancy, you've got another idea that you've been thinking about that you really want to champion, we're going to be having a 6th group that's going to be meeting actually back here in the back room, doing more brainstorming about new projects and other projects that people want to work on. So you're welcome to choose one of the current projects or join the group that's interested in talking about new projects and new ideas. All right? So that's kind of how that's going to work today. So a little bit about what we're trying to do with this idea of placemaking. One of the taglines that we've talked about is, what if we regenerated Pomona around places? That was one of the things that we've been really sort of the seeds of this idea. And this idea of a regenerative community is something that some of us have been working on for a while. And I talked about this last time for folks that were there. But there are a number of sort of characteristics or qualities that communities that really have a lot of momentum really sort of reflect. The first is that these are communities where individuals feel a strong sense of belonging. They feel like others, other than just their immediate family, genuinely care for them and their well-being. And so they feel like they really belong to a community. There's also in these kind of communities a very strong sense of self-worth. This idea that the community really believes that they're worthy of having high-quality things, good schools, clean parks, all of the things that we often talk about, and really believe that they have an opportunity to make those things happen in their community. A third perception is that the community believes that there's a sense of well-being in the community, that the community is generally healthy, a healthy place to be, supportive of a healthy lifestyle, a healthy environment. And then there's a strong sense of possibility. This idea that they really believe that anything that they wish to accomplish is possible, anything they wish their children they would want their children to accomplish is really possible, and that those dreams can be realized by being part of this community. You don't have to move somewhere else to realize those kinds of dreams. And all of that builds into this kind of sense of momentum for communities. And this sense that the community is really some place that is on the go, and that where it's going is somewhere very positive socially, positive economically, positive environmentally. So these are really the conditions that those of us that started the placemaking kind of effort here in Pomona have really been thinking about. What are the ways in which we try to instill these conditions as strongly as possible in Pomona, as well as in other communities where some of us work. And so that's really kind of the big goal that we're working for with this idea. And really, when you think about those kind of qualities and think about this idea of regeneration, it's really about building community among people. And so just having an event like this, even if we don't accomplish anything other than just having some good conversation, that's a big step right there. But it really is about building community among people. One of the things that researchers will talk about is that physical places can play a really important role in building that community, creating opportunities for gathering, opportunities for sharing, and so forth. And so we're drawing upon a lot of work of a project called the Project for Public Spaces, which is a really well-known planning group that does a lot of work about placemaking. They've got some really wonderful resources. Some of the images I'll show you today are from their materials. But definitely encourage you to check out the Project for Public Spaces if you're interested in learning more or seeing more ideas about how to really advance this idea of placemaking. So one of the things that the Project for Public Spaces says is that when you think about this idea of creating place to regenerate communities, you need destinations. All cities need destinations that give an identity and image to a community and can help attract new residents, new businesses, new investment. But most importantly, these destinations bring residents together to support building community and to foster a strong sense of belonging among people. And so when we talk about destinations, we can think of these as districts, as neighborhoods, as important landmarks, things that we tend to refer to by name as regions or places or areas we go to within our community. So destinations are really important. And within destinations, they say that destinations need places. And places are what make each destination successful because they create a variety of opportunities to bring people together. And so places are really, the basic definition is recognized locations within a destination for socializing, relaxing, resting, playing, those types of activities that we tend to do in our spare time. And places are where people feel like they belong, they feel comfortable being there, they have a strong stake in their communities, and a commitment to making things better. And so that's really the hallmark or the important characteristics of places. And these could include things like commercial establishments, coffee shops, cafes, those types of things. They could include they may be permanent kinds of activities that are there on a daily basis, or they may be events that are planned and organized and occur in those locations. And they might include things like drinking coffee, listening to music or playing music, taking some sort of class, gardening, skateboarding, all sorts of things, depending on what the community is really interested in, what kind of activities the community is. And it's safe to be there, and they want to bring guests there and see this place. That it attracts people to participate in activities. So again, there's a clear purpose for going there oftentimes, and you've got a plan when you go there in terms of something that you're going to be doing, whether it's reading on your own or participating in some kind of festival. And then last, that it's a welcoming environment where people want to visit again. So this comfort keeps coming back as a really important consideration, and a really interesting challenge when we try to work in communities and really trying to create that. But it's very possible. And so I'm going to show you some examples today of some things that are going on in Pomona. So you'll see some places that you recognize and activities that you might recognize. And then I'm going to show you also some other examples from around the world, just to get your brains thinking creatively a little bit about some of the possibilities. And there's a number of kinds of themes that repeatedly come up in these kind of placemaking activities. And one of them, of course, is artwork. And this is a mural that we have in downtown Pomona. We have a number of different murals throughout the city, some on private businesses, some in public places, and so forth. And we've got one group today that you'll hear about that's really interested in this idea of a mural. And so that kind of public art, whether it's sculpture, or whether it's painting, or other kinds of things, represents a tremendous opportunity. And so murals are something that a lot of communities participate in. They've got a strong cultural tradition, and we tend to readily think of those as really great opportunities, and they are really great opportunities. There might be some other places where you can think about integrating art as well. Roadways is something that people have really sort of looked at in certain communities. This is in Portland, Oregon, where they've got this whole intersection painting project that they've been doing for a number of years there to try to bring communities together to create artwork on the pavement. And so there's possibilities like that. This is another one, the Egg in Vancouver, British Columbia. So very, literal, very fun kinds of ideas sometimes are played with. And of course, when you're doing the public roadway, that's a public resource that you need to work with the city, and we've got the public works director over here saying, yeah, you need to work with the city. And so, so that's definitely, a possibility, but obviously that takes some effort. But there are many places where we have pavement in private organizations, churches, other kinds of places that might be able to utilize parking lots for either these kind of artwork or temporary kinds of art installations like you see in this photo in San Francisco on the right. So really thinking creatively about ways in which art can be integrated throughout the community beyond just the murals that we regularly think about.
We have a labyrinth painted on our parking lot.
That's great,
So
yeah.
that
So
can
a labyrinth,
go
a very
other
interactive
places, yeah.
kind of artwork as well, yeah. Good. So art is one of the things that you see really commonly coming up in a lot of these placemaking projects that are really community-based. Another one is gardening and green space. This is actually a photo from the Lopez Elementary School. I think Tracy's in this photo. She's back there. And so we've got a number of school gardens and community gardens throughout the city already. So they're a really wonderful resource, really wonderful opportunity. And of course, there's always the opportunity for more of those. We tend to think, oh, those places take land. We need to think about opportunities to create those spaces. And they do, but others where there's been a shortage of available land to work, have looked at other kinds of opportunities like using underutilized parking lots and other kinds of things in planting kinds of areas or creating community gardens in that way. So there's lots of kinds of opportunities to think creatively about the way that that might happen. Another thing to think about in relationship to gardens is, of course, food and opportunities for events that might create. This is a couple of images, 2 or 3 images from a project that I worked on at Westmont Elementary School. We called it the Westmont Community Cook-Off, where we brought parents and students together and brought bags of produce for them and challenged them to work together to make dishes for a community meal. And so again, having events where there's these kind of community activities coming together, people working together and sharing ideas, you know, those kinds of events are great opportunities as well. We've also seen a number of places around the globe where folks have done community meals like that, where either they're cooking on their own and bringing something, they're maybe in this place up here, Iowa City, this is a project that my cousin's involved with. He's a chef, and so the local restaurants provide those kinds of food at those events. But you see lots of different situations. The one on the left is actually a freeway that they took over, closed down for a period of time, and had the dinner on the freeway. This one's in the main street through Iowa City, and this is on a major street in St. Paul as well. So looking at kind of reclaiming automobile space for human activity, it can be one of those kinds of exciting things in that kind of temporary event situation. So you can think about those, and these are eating, but of course there's all sorts of things that could potentially take place in those kind of spaces. I like eating, so. And then another area where you see a lot of creativity in placemaking is in seating. And this is another project. This is a project that actually a former student of mine won a national award for a few years ago at a Pomona bus stop. This was on the corner of Ridgeway and Valley on the west side of Pomona. And he basically built these seats out of tires. So this is the design in this area right here. And he built these kind of flexible seats that could be easily dragged around into the shade, and people could sit on them while waiting for the bus. And really trying to create this opportunity, very low cost, basically using waste materials, right? And very informal kind of opportunity. He actually won an award for this, I think in 2009 is when he did this. They were there for over 2 years. I would drive by that site on a daily basis, and people were using them 2 years later and still utilizing that while waiting for the bus. And so these kind of simple projects, that's an example that's here in Pomona. We see other places. This is one from Australia where they've looked at a way to encourage people to use steps as seating areas. This also maybe has the added advantage of discouraging skateboarding or something in that location as well. But you can see it creates opportunities for people to maybe eat lunch or do other kinds of activities there. We see a lot of activity around the small libraries, and I know we've got a number of these libraries throughout the city already. Many have explored the ideas of expanding those into seating opportunities for reading or gathering or neighborhood events, those types of things as well. So there's a lot of opportunity around that. And then just opportunities, again, for reclaiming spaces for people that we don't often think about as being people spaces. The image on the left here is actually an image that a friend of mine who teaches at the University of Arkansas, his students just put that up this week in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's what's called a parklet, and basically it occupies 2 or 3 parking spaces out in front of presumably a coffee shop or some type of business where people can gather and sit and do work and visit and so forth. And that's intended to be a temporary kind of situation. It might be there for a few weeks, might be there longer. Again, it's sort of utilizing public right-of-way, so those kinds of discussions. And that's a very well-designed one. It's designed students working on that. But in other situations, it might be simply just making a table available, bringing a table out into a space and activating that space, even on a temporary basis. Maybe the table goes away each evening, that type of thing. But it's creating those kinds of opportunities for gathering. And you can see lots of examples of these parklets. If you Google this, San Francisco's done a lot of these. The one on the left is an example of a design from San Francisco. And again, these would be rotating things that would be up for a period of weeks, typically in these neighborhoods. To very temporary, much more temporary, but much greener kinds of solutions like you see here on the right. So a lot of different kinds of opportunities to create those seatings in those public environments, particularly in relationship to businesses or other activity centers where people are going to be gathering. And then finally, there might be opportunities even within our own neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, to create these kind of seating or gathering kinds of opportunities as well. So a couple of these examples here of places where people have carved out seating opportunities, not just for themselves, but for passerbys in their neighborhood.
The stuff that's temporary, you know, what's the point?
That's a good question. I mean, often I think the stuff that's temporary is done as kind of a trial to see if, you know, there's a demand for the use of this kind of space.
And then if it is, then it's not necessarily temporary, if it's utilized.
So that, yeah, that could be possible. And again, it depends if you're trying to acquire public right-of-way to utilize something, that's something that is a little bit more involved. If you've got that on private property, that's something that is a little bit more straightforward to do. But yeah, I think often people are interested in kind of testing these things out and see if there's some momentum that can be built behind them.
It could also be considered in the category of event, like as something that like happens.
Yep.
So I think with the placemaking, what's very interesting is whatever you do, it adds to that on some level or other, either the event or the location or the destination. So it could be an event.
Any other thoughts or comments?
I just want to make a comment. I think the point of that also is to give people other ideas. Like, you know, you go around the city and you see all these shops. There's really not a lot of good restaurants with very attractive storefronts, and you know, seeing something like this could possibly give them ideas.
Right, right. Very good, very good. One more.
I just wanted to add a comment, like for example, like the painting in the middle of the intersection, that serves an additional purpose to help to slow down traffic as well. And it's a temporary thing, the paint fades away and everything, and there's something like important about rituals in the process of community that we come together again to repaint that. So even if things are temporary, maybe that's the point. We have to like come back and revisit it and recreate it, because things change over time, how we feel about them and whatnot. Yeah.
That's a really good point, and it's often very much, as much if not more, about the process of actually making it together than it is what the product ultimately is. Yes, sir.
On the seating and the using a couple of parking spaces, I can see where the business, where those parking spaces would just kind of love it if, you know, it brought people to their business. And then I can also see the like business down the street a little bit who didn't get permission to do that, you know, doing it themselves, breaking the law, or complaining about, you know, why did you let them do that? Or people looking for parking spaces, why did you let them do that? So that, you know, is going to have to take some real thought.
So it's an interesting challenge, but you know, I'm a professor, so I like thinking, but sometimes I think we tend to overthink things in terms of, sometimes we have to try these out, and that's why a temporary kind of exploration makes sense, because there may be problems that we don't foresee that materialize, or there may be problems that we think that are going to be there that turn out not to be a problem. And so very much this experimental kind of idea is something I really encourage. One of the ideas we stressed last time was this idea of what's called lighter, cheaper, quicker, which was really encouraging us to think about things that don't cost a lot of money up front, don't necessarily require a lot of permissions, and really are opportunities to begin doing something, again, to begin to sort of evaluate what's working, what's not working, and really get some momentum behind these kinds of places. So I really encourage thinking in that kind of lighter, cheaper, quicker way, and not censoring ourselves by all of the possibilities that, and potential problems that might emerge out of that. So what we're going to do today is we've got this is 6. We actually have 5 groups that have already sort of organized around places or projects. And I'm going to ask an individual from each group to talk briefly for 1 minute about each of those kinds of activities today. And then if you haven't really decided what you want to work on, and one of those is of interest to you, you can make a note about where it's going to be gathering and you can join that group. Or if none of those are really interesting, we're going to have a 6th group off here that'll give an opportunity for brainstorming more ideas throughout the city that people are interested in working on. So the first project I want to talk about is downtown, and I think we've identified that table there. Tracy, can you raise your hand? You're sitting at the downtown table there. So that's going to be where the downtown group's going to meet, and that was a group that started meeting at the last placemaking workshop. I think, Chara, were you going to say like a minute about what all you've been thinking about working on?
I don't think it's fair I get to go first twice.
I went alphabetical, and that's how it worked out. So.
Did you really?
So just 1 minute.
Oh, man.
Do you want me to save one for the team, Chara?
You could potentially. No, it's okay. I got it covered. So we did not focus on a specific one to start and branch out. And kind of dressing up the stencil guy. So little bit by little bit, people have started taking pictures of the stencil and posting him. So that's been fun, just to see it, but we haven't made a huge campaign towards it, but it is something that we'd like to do, and just, again, bringing people in the downtown area, and not just coming downtown to see the stencil guy, but actually looking up and going into the gallery. That would be ideal, right? So we started working on that one. As far as the road closure, the street closure was one of the big ones. Was we just in the downtown area, being able to walk and not get hit. Having a place where we can just, oh great, we walk across. But the emphasis was not on the Volkswagens, it was the art, because we want them to see the handmade art, go into the galleries and everything. And the VW people just loved it, because they're like, oh my gosh, I normally go to a show. And then we were like, what do we do here? And they love downtown Pomona. So that was a part of it. Obviously, the street wasn't completely closed off. It was still through traffic, but it showed the community, and it showed just the need and desire for closure, at the very least on Art Walk. And it's been consistent for the last 3 months, where there's been a lot of people, and I'm running around like, please walk on the sidewalk for right now. So that's been a big one. And then there was one other that we did focus on, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I have 1 minute, and I'm already over. But anyway, so there's been a few of them that we have been working on, and I'd love to see how we can focus in a little bit more today downtown.
Great.
Okay.
So if you're interested in downtown, one we have on the list, the third one is the Rio Rancho Trail, and that's going to be meeting over there. Steve, if you want to raise your hand, that's that table there. And Steve, if you want to talk a little bit about what that's about.
Sure. I'll try to keep it to a minute. The Rio Rancho, I apologize for having my back to you. The Rio Rancho Trail is an area of city-owned property that's about 10 acres in area, and it's at the kind of at the east end of the Phillips Ranch community, and it functions as kind of a natural drainage course for a good part of the community. If any of you have been to the ranch, you know that there's a formalized green belt that's about a mile in length, and the trail area is an extension of that, but it's an unimproved natural area. the idea for the trail area and improving that actually kind of came about before the first placemaking workshop. There's a group of folks from an adjacent neighborhood watch group, a couple of who are here today, that got very active after a fire down in the creek area in June of last year that was started by the homeless who were camping down there. And so the neighborhood got very involved with respect to policing the area, and it's kind of morphed into cleaning up trash in that area. Several hundred pounds which have been hauled out over the last year. But the potential that we see in that area, which has hundreds and hundreds of trees, is for basically a natural area that the community and the whole city can enjoy for walking, hiking, running, walking your dog, that sort of thing. Because there is a water feature that runs through there. It's very relaxing. It's very beautiful, and so the neighborhood has already been working with the city and through our Public Works Director Meg McQuaid, because there's some hoops that have to be jumped through with respect to doing the improvements in this area. But the community is very excited about the potential for this area, and I know I'm excited that I got invited to kind of join them on their walk several months ago. And I think it would be great for the community if we're able to move forward and kind of clean that area up and make it open and available to the rest of the community, because it does meet virtually all the criteria that Kyle listed earlier with respect to placemaking.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. That group will be meeting back in that table over there. You're welcome to join them if that interests you. Then we had a group working on various kinds of projects in South Pomona, I think particularly around events, but I'll let Nora talk about what's been going on there.
Hi everyone. So the first event we talked about, and I'm still trying to figure out how we got there, was bringing a rodeo to South Pomona. Definitely not lighter, definitely not cheaper, definitely not faster. I do have some information if you guys are interested. Reclaiming the front of our library. I'm very involved in the library, and you have no idea how many times parents tell me, I had no idea you guys were going to be so cool in here. I normally skip the library because of, things going on outside. And I'm like, I completely understand. So we had this conversation about reclaiming it. And I just found out that the library in April would like to hold a Superheroes Day. And say they would like to invite, not just because it's Superheroes Day, Batman, Superman, The Flash, all those good people, but really invite police officers, paramedics, firefighters to come into our library, maybe park a vehicle in front of the library civic center, and allow the kids to talk to them and just interact with them and climb on the trucks and have all that fun stuff. But something that I would love to see is that we honor a Pomona hero. Someone that went above and beyond, the call of duty in any way, shape, or form, civilian or not, and they could be honored on this day. And that way we could kind of reclaim the front of our library a little bit. But there you go. If you're interested in a rodeo, come talk to me. We're figuring it out.
And so that South Pomona group's going to be gathering at this table here. All right. And then next up, we've got our hosts, Unity Church and their mural. And I'm going to ask Jan to talk a little bit about the idea there.
So we have these, I don't know how many of you are in our parking lot, but we have this wall, a block wall, all the way around our pretty big parking lot. And ever since I've been here, I have wanted, used to have a lot of graffiti on it, and our great graffiti cleaner-uppers would come out and paint over it. But I've had this vision of having a mural for the 15 years I've been here. So we mentioned it, and then somebody said, well, Dick, it was you that said, why don't we do the history of Pomona on this wall? And then I've been talking to Philip. Our church we have a lot of artists, and there's a lot of artists in Pomona. A lot of artists. Philip, do you want to say something about some of your ideas? Because paint by numbers and getting a lot of people involved.
My name is Philip, and besides loving art, I always look at spots that are a fresh canvas. Those walls are a fresh canvas. But I thought about bringing the community together, not just artists, but the artist can sketch it out. The artist can put it on the wall, but let the kids and the adults that live in this community come and do the painting. So make them a part of this. And not just the artists, including the gang members that are in the community. Because if you include them, they're not gonna put graffiti on the wall. And a lot of people, when I say bring the gang member in there too, they look at me like, why would you do that? They're part of this community. Whether we like it or not, they're still part of this community. So get them involved. And they can take, once they've got a vested interest in it, it might be what turns their life around. So if we're more inclusive with everybody that lives here, we might be able to change Pomona.
And getting ideas from kids you've talked about as well as, and
So if you're interested in the mural and those kinds of related ideas here at Unity Church, they're going to be meeting at this table right here. All right. And then the last area, last project we have is the Urban Arboretum. I haven't seen, is Shelley here? Shelley Schmidt? I haven't seen her. Okay.
She's outside there.
Okay, so hopefully she'll be coming, but I'll talk a little bit about the project. She's been kind of the lead on that effort. And the Urban Arboretum is going to be meeting in this center table here in the back. That project came about by an interest in really, there's a number of people that love trees in Pomona. Pomona's got a lot of really terrific trees. Some of the best collection of our trees exist over at Ganesha Park. And so Shelley had originally proposed the idea of looking at establishing an urban arboretum.
At least with one person being responsible to be the lead, get information from the people who are part of that group, and then those groups work on that in step-by-step kind of task ways. So just to say there's going to be both those in that group and all of these.
Yeah, all of those are going to go through that. So this is really sort of the suggested strategy as you get into the tables, regardless of which table you're in. Take some time to allow people to introduce themselves so that we get to know one another by name and get to know, and so maybe introduce yourself and describe a little bit briefly about why you're interested in the project. You don't want to take all of your time introducing each other, but spend some time talking a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the project. And then you're going to have about an hour to work, okay? And we want you to work on plans and thinking about, again, tangible, as Bree was saying, tasks that might be undertaken, as well as who would be responsible for those. And I'm going to go around and hand out these sheets to groups that ask you to kind of think about writing information down about actions that you plan on taking. Because our hope is that we can support you in that effort and keep following up with you and give you resources that you need or connect you to other volunteers and so forth as you go forward. So if you end up putting your name on the sheet, you're not gonna be out there alone by yourself. We're gonna do our best as long as you turn your sheet back in, so I know, we're gonna be able to follow up with you and try to give you as much support as possible. Then just towards the very end, we're gonna briefly come back as a group and we're gonna ask each group to share one thing that you want the rest of the group to know about your project. Just one thing. So we're going to try to keep that real brief. And so we'll give you some time to think about that and share that back as well. Any questions? Yes, Steve?
So this isn't really related to this particular event.
Okay.
But we do have our own active placemaking project going on here in Pomona that is actually coming up in November. It is a very big event. It is called the Pomona Heritage Home Tour. It happens every single year. This year it's going to include the craft fair. Kim Martinez, some of you may know her, and myself, Dean Rudenauer, have taken on the task at a very late date of putting together the craft fair. We are So we have a pretty big event, and it would be a great example, I think, for people if you're trying to generate ideas for yourself on place-making events or what something like that would look like in the city. I encourage you all to come out, take a look at it on November 5th, which is a Sunday, kind of see what we're doing.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mike, did you say
Yeah, I
something?
did. Dovetailing on that, on October 7th, the Pomona Library is having a book fair. And that book fair will be from 12 noon to 4:30, and we'll have everything from panels with artists, and then panels with authors, and we'll have everything for the children. It's a very good event. It's our 3rd annual, so we just recommend that everybody come down. Thank you. Oh, and that's actually at the Pomona Civic Center, so it's another great place to be.
And one of the things I'll mention just is that we do have a calendar on our placemaking website. And so if folks have events that are placemaking related, whether it's small group meetings that you're organizing after today or events like that, if you share those with us by email at our pomonaplacemaking@gmail.com, then we can put those on the calendar for everybody to see. So, okay, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and break up into groups. So again, if you're undetermined, if you want to do some more general brainstorming, you can go in the back group. Otherwise, we're going to gather around these 5 tables based on what you're interested in. We'll do our best to try to fit everybody at the table. We may have to adjust some of the